Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night Rambles. In our final episode of what I'm calling the mini-series. Season 3 is still going to continue after Easter, but we're going to have a little bit of an Easter break, to be fair. My voice can't hack it anymore. But welcome to Friday Night Rambles. Welcome to the Legends of Drag here for a fantastic evening with some of the most legendary drag queens that have ever existed. We're going to meet them now. So, joining us this evening, we have the legendary David Dale. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm live from my Disney room. Just to keep everyone on their toes. In case they get bored of me, they can look at the background, you know.
I like it. We'll talk about the Disney room in just a bit.
Oh.
We have... It is interesting. I do like that. It's very stylish. It's very... I don't know how to describe it, but it is very stylish.
Museum. People normally describe it as a museum. Yeah.
That's it. This evening, we also welcome Miss Jason. Hello, Miss Jason.
Hello, dears. How are you? Chin chin, dollies. Nice to see you.
Oh, bless you.
Hello, dear. How are you, love? You're looking marvellous. Very butch.
You got a cup of tea. You got
Cup of coffee.
Tea and I got the vodka. Oh, it's lovely.
And I've got
to me. And I can hear you all now. I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, bless you. We've got a bit of delay on the line, but we'll work on that to fix that. And also this evening, rounding up our lineup, we have the lovely Dave Lynn. Hello, Dave.
Hello. Good evening, Dave, Jason. Hello. Nice to see you.
Hello, dear. How are you?
Well, I'm getting older.
Oh, aren't we all, dear? Aren't we all?
Because we
Not
were just
Miss
saying
Jason.
before...
Miss Jason's frozen.
Oh, she's frozen. She's like Walt Disney. That's it.
No, she's got cryogenics, or what Walt Disney had. She's gonna wake up with a cartoon character up her ass.
Oh, bless me.
Not for the first time.
I can't hear her.
Hello, Jace. Hello.
We're going to try and work out some technical things with Miss Jason in a little bit. We're also going to say goodbye to Dave Lynn as well. But Dave, before you go, Dave Lynn, as well, into the waiting room, you were just saying before, when was the last time you saw David Dale in person?
Well, Dave
was in
Dale
court,
and
wasn't he?
I go back. I think we're probably the same age. And I think we started in the same year. Which was a magical time, and Dave grew very quickly into.
Still growing, dear. I put on 2 stone, mate.
I was talking about your career, not your weight.
Oh, sorry, dear. Carry on, dear.
She grew very quickly as an act, but the first show I ever did properly at 17, was it 17, Dave?
Yeah, we were both 17.
I played Judy Garland to your Liza Minnelli.
That's correct. And we did a double act. Yes, in 1976, Jane.
Was it 70 years?
I know. I've worked with so many drag performers in the past, but Dave was the first.
Yes.
Yeah, and you taught me so much.
Dave, you were my first.
Oh, not nice. Who said romance is dead? No, those were the good old days. It was great.
I remember great, wasn't it? Your dad and brought you from Southend.
Yeah.
And
yes, I used to come and watch us.
I was trying my act out, and everyone said, "Oh, your dad came in the dressing room and said, my son's really talented. He's not gay."
No, I wasn't then. I wasn't sure what I was.
I know, but 5 minutes after that, you were.
Put those heels on. That was it.
Look, I'm going to end this romance right now because I've had enough of the sickening
stuff. Jealous.
I am jealous. But David Dale, it is lovely to have you back with us. How are you?
Oh, it's nice to be back, my dear.
How are you keeping?
Oh, lovely. Oh, I'm all right, dear. Other than the odd, harassment on Facebook, I'm fine.
We'll
You know, you just tell them to F off and get on with it. No.
We'll talk about that a little bit because I think it's quite poignant with what's been going on at the moment. But what we didn't ask you last time was about your drag work. And I'm really interested to know how you sort of got started as a drag performer.
Well, I always wanted to be an actor. And straight after when I left school, very young, I left school at 15. I walked out. I'd had enough. And I got a grant to go to a technical college to study drama. But it was so boring. It was just literally reading passages of scripts and studying Shakespeare and all this shit. And it wasn't my cup of tea at all. So I didn't know what I was going to do. But I lived in Southend-on-Sea, and every week, because I was such a thespian in my own brain, I used to buy the Stage magazine newspaper for theatre performers and cabaret artists. And there was an advert asking for new drag artists for a club in London. Well, I was quite desperate, and I never done drag before. I just finished playing Nancy in my school play. So I thought, well, I can do this, because I was really desperate. And I went up for the audition, and they literally threw me on in front of a whole audience of gay men. I'd never been in a gay bar before in my life. I wasn't sure if I was gay or straight. I was completely confused, but I was absolutely hungry to be an entertainer. And if it had been a magician, I would have learned how to pull a rabbit out of a hat. If it had been a juggler, I'd learned to juggle with razor blades. But it just so happened it was drag. And I'd never done drag. So I put my idea of drag on in this club. And I literally went up to this club with a Liza Minnelli album. And they put the Liza Minnelli album on, an LP. And I just mimed the first act. And the whole place went crazy. I thought I looked stunning. The second I walked out, everyone was laughing. So I snapped and I thought, play it for laughs, David. Don't try and be Liza Minnelli. Do your interpretation and take the mickey out of yourself, which is what I did. And I've been doing it ever since. So I've been very lucky. But those early days were it was magical to be in London. I was in Sin City, the Bright Lights and nightclub, and I was finding myself. And here I was in this gay bar, surrounded by so many gay men. I didn't even know what a gay man was. My idea of a gay man was Larry Grayson on telly, or John Inman. That was it. And I think just at that time, The Naked Civil Servant had come on. So those were my three role models. And here I was in a room full of gay men. I felt like I was at home. And so I went for it and I got the job. So that's how I started drag.
But it's interesting you say that about the time you started, and rightly you mentioned John Inman, because reading into John Inman, there was backlash for John Inman being put in Are You Being Served at the time, because people thought, no, that isn't, well, dare I say, normal. But I'm so glad times have changed. So in growing up as or even establishing your act in that sort of culture, I'm guessing that must have been a bit of a mind struggle. I don't know if there's a mind struggle, or did you find any pressures establishing an act during that time?
I knew deep down that I thought at one point I might have been bisexual, but my mind was so concentrated on getting an act together and being the best I could possibly be. I wasn't happy being like all the other drag acts. I literally went around the pubs and the bars to see what all the other acts were doing. And I was opened up to this fabulously glittery, glamorous world of drag, female impersonation, gay nightlife. And it was completely overwhelmed me, to the point where being gay and thinking about being gay was secondary. That didn't matter. What was important to me was getting my act together and being different and not being like everyone else. So at that time, my energy was spent on my performance rather than my sexuality.
And you say about getting your act together. So what sort of things did you have to do in order to get your act together? Because the scene, as we know it now, obviously, there's no scene, obviously live entertainment is completely gone at the moment. But the performance scene, say maybe like 3-4 years ago, again, it's completely different to the 80s, the 90s. So what did you have to do as a performer to get the work and eventually get paid?
Well, the thing is, in my day, and Dave Lynn will back me up here, I'm sure, you didn't just ring up a bar and say, hello, my name's Susie Stardust, I'm a drag artist and I want X amount of pounds. You had to, first of all, you had to be recommended. And then you had to literally go on stage in front of an audience, do your act. If they liked you, you got paid. If they didn't like you, you were told, thank you very much, but you're not right for here. Luckily, that never happened to me. In those early days, I was kind of doing things that other people wouldn't touch. Not so much in the very early days. I had a very box standard drag act. I was doing things like Liza Minnelli and Carmen Miranda and Marilyn Monroe. But sometime, I guess I've been doing drag for about 4 months when I met a guy called Scott Tyler. And Scott and I decided we wanted to be the first London drag punk act. And so our act was very much based on shocking people. And that worked for us. Although after a while, after about 6 months of that, it just got a bit gory and a bit kind of bloody. And we decided to call it a day. But in its day, no one was touching anything to do with punk. And our act was very punky and very controversial and quite shocking. And we went out of our way deliberately to shock and cause conversation and to be infamous rather than famous, if you know what I mean. Yeah, we didn't really want to be liked. We wanted people to go, oh my God, what was that? And that's what happened. Yeah.
And so where do you go from that? So where do you go from doing something completely off the wall, something completely different? And then when you say call it a day, where do you go from that? Where?
Well, as I said, I didn't want to just do the box standard Marilyn Monroe, Liza Minnelli, Judy Garland impressions. I needed to make my characters I did in my act, because of course I was a mime act. And at that time, mime was very trendy and everyone was doing mime, relatively cheaper to put on in a bar as opposed to a live act. You didn't have to worry about mics and pianists and sheets of music. Because in those days, most pubs had a pianist and a drummer on. So in order to be different, I decided it would be a case of using my physicality very much. I was using my body a lot. A lot of mime acts just stood there and mimed the words. I would literally explode on stage like a Worthing Dervish. And I would use my facial expressions a lot. Because at the end of the day, you can spend as much money as you like on a nice dress and a wig, but you have to do something in it to keep the audience's attention. And I would go out of my way to mug, pull funny faces. I do the splits. I do the can-can. I would jump up in the air. I would be like a lunatic. A friend of mine once said, if you watch David Dale on stage and you bring your washing down, you can literally throw it on stage and it'll be done in 20 minutes. Because that was what I was like. I was full of energy. And that's what I think that's what kept me popular. And with that, I never took myself seriously. None of my impersonations were real. They were all Mickey takes. I would take somebody's characterization and blow it out of all proportion. For instance, when I did Barbra Streisand in those days, I used to wear an enormous nose. I mean, you couldn't get away with it now because it's not politically correct. But in those days, we did. And we did things to kind of be different. We all had to be different in our own ways, because if you were too much like everyone else, you didn't get a look in on the scene. You had to be original.
Yeah. Speaking of, before we move on to someone else, because there's a lot of things that I want to do as a joint discussion rather than just fire the same questions, but someone is very, very, very sort of in sync with my thoughts said, David, I love your Disney. So talk about that, because your museum, as we're calling it, is it honestly looks like something you'd find in like a toy shop.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the thing is with me is the very first film I ever saw when I was 6 years old was Mary Poppins. And I loved it so much. And as a child, I was completely obsessed by Mary Poppins. I used to, I forced my mother to buy me a Mary Poppins costume I could run around the house in. And I wasn't allowed to play in the street in it, but I could run around the house in it. And I had a wig and a brolly and a bag, and I was snapping my fingers all over the place and singing Chim Chimney. And I was completely obsessed. And the problem is that I never grew out of that obsession. It's as simple as that. And as I got older, I discovered Disney, and it's my passion. Disney means more to me than drag does. And I've been to Disney World, God knows how many times, Disneyland, Disney Paris. I've yet to do a Disney cruise, but that's my next plan. And I want to go to Tokyo and Shanghai and Hong Kong Disney. And because of my love of Disney, my dining room is I'm surrounded by it. I have very rare pictures on the wall. I have collectible figurines, porcelain figurines, collectible dolls from the 30s and 40s, all sorts of things. James and I were working out approximately how much my collection was worth, and we came up with about anything between 25 and 30,000 pounds, possibly more. But it's my pride and joy. It's my thing. It's who I am. My friends call me Disney Dave, and some people call me Peter Pan because I refuse to grow up. And sometimes I just sit in this room and I play Disney music, and I'm in my complete world, and I'm as happy as Larry. I've never really grown up. I've always been very childlike. That comes over in my act as well. I'm very childish on stage, and I don't take it too seriously. So yeah, I guess that's where my obsession with Disney came from, was from Mary Poppins. It's still one of my favorite movies to this day.
And did that sort of collection inspire you to do your dolls?
No, that was completely different kettle of fish altogether. The inspiration for the dolls, I made celebrity dolls because basically, in a nutshell, I was working in Gran Canaria, and without going into too much detail, I found myself out of work. And I had no money. I was completely penniless. And I came back to the UK with just my wages for the month in my hand, thinking, how the hell am I going to pay my bills? I'm lucky because I own my own house. I don't pay any rent or mortgage, so that weren't a problem. But it was bills and food. And I didn't really know how I was going to earn a living, because all the pubs by that time, a lot of people didn't know I was anymore. A lot of pubs were really, really booked up months and months in advance, because what you have to remember was, although on the gay scene I was known and was very popular for many years, I left the gay scene in the year 2000 and started doing more theatre work and working abroad and opening gay bars in Jersey and what have you, and putting on big drag reviews. And when I came back after all my travels around the world in 2017, there was no work. Everything was different. All the pubs had shut. All my old venues have now closed. The Black Cap had closed. So I was penniless. So I thought, what am I going to do? So I started selling old costumes. That soon went like that. Then I had this idea, because I've always been very good with arts and crafts. And I had this idea of making a Liza Minnelli doll, because I've always been obsessed by Liza Minnelli, and I wanted a Liza Minnelli doll. I saw one in America once, and it was so expensive. It was something on the lines of $3,000 or something. Porcelain doll about this big. So I thought, I'll make one. And I made it, and I liked it. And I showed my friend, and he said, would you make me a Frankenfurter doll? And I said, well, yeah, why not? So I made him a Frankenfurter doll. And I think he paid me 50 quid for it or something. And I said, well, that's much too much. I said, no, I don't want that much. Just keep it. And he said, no. What you're selling here, David, is not just the materials that you use it's art. He said, you know, an artist don't go out and spend 25 quid on a canvas and paint and then sell his painting for 25 quid because that's how much he paid for it. He said, you're paying for your time and your talent. He said, you should sell these. So he basically put this doll on Facebook with my Liza Minnelli doll, and orders came in like this. And that's how I started making money. And now it's got to the point, and also because of my age, I'm feeling I'm on the verge that I don't want to do drag anymore. I would just continue making my dolls from home, earning more money than I do doing drag, making the dolls. But deep down inside, I'm a performer first and foremost. So I see the dolls as a sideline and my act as who I am, although the dolls earn me more money than the drag does.
Amazing. In literally like sort of a 20-second soundbite, who's the most famous doll that you've done and the most weirdest doll you've done?
The weirdest doll I've ever done, I think, was Edith Massey from the movie Pink Flamingos. I don't know if you know it. It's a cult film by John Waters starring Divine. She's a big, huge, big fat woman, really, really big, that wears really skin-tight black latex jumpsuits that are laced all the way up one side of her leg, and the costume's cut right down here. So she's got these massive bosoms. Also, she's about 75, so she's got a really wrinkled old face with no teeth, loads of horrible makeup, and this scraggy blonde hair with black roots. That was probably the weirdest thing. The most popular doll I've made The request that this sounds awful, so don't take it the wrong way, please. I'm not being a diva, but I've made more self-portraits than any other doll. I've made about 7 or 8 of me for various fans. But other than me, I've made Marlene Dietrich more than any other doll. I've made Marlene 4 times, Margaret Thatcher twice, the Queen twice. But I get weird things like the Pope, for instance. I had to make one of the Pope, and Tupac, which was very odd. So I've had some weird requests. So yeah, but you know, I don't know where this talent for making dolls came from. I really don't know. I think it was an act of desperation. And now they take about 3 or 4 days to make. I've made a couple of Dave before, Dave Lynn, for some of his fans. No Miss Jason dolls yet, unfortunately. But Miss Jason's had a couple of dolls from me, which was nice. But yeah, it's a great hobby. It's a great way to pass time, and it's a great way to make money. So yeah, it's been a good little learner for me. And now I even have to pay tax to the tax man. I'm a limited company now. Diva Dollies, which is what I'm called, is a limited company.
You've made some of Dave Lynn, right?
Yes, I've made 2 of Dave in the past. Yeah. He's seen them, I think.
Sorry, I thought I'd gone. Yeah, you have lovely ones. Yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to buy one.
Oh, darling, I would have done you mate's rates.
Mate's rates after all these years.
Oh, well, I'll do you one for nothing then, dear. You can stick on top of your Christmas tree. Don't tell Miss Jason. She's had 2 from me.
We've been talking, actually, Dave Dale and I recently. I think we're lovely when we're out of this whole business. I would love to do something with Dave because we come from the same time.
Yeah, and it would be great.
Yeah, it would be lovely. It would be lovely, yeah. But I couldn't afford to darling. Sorry.
I'd love to do Sisters with you, Dave, because I know you've done Panto quite a few times, haven't you? And have you played Sister with Jason, haven't you?
With Miss Jason.
Oh, we did. I think I'm in now. Can you hear me?
You are.
I've tuned you into my hearing aid.
We're allowed back. I've actually made the house since they've been talking.
We were in Woking, weren't we?
Oh.
As sisters.
Who was that with? Who was your top of the bill?
Oh, Mr. Tumble.
Mr. Tumble. No, was it Tumble?
Justin Fletcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who was the other one, darling? Who was the other famous person? Oh, it was you.
Oh. It's Hal Crittenden. Hal Crittenden.
Oh, yes.
It's a wonderful story of Jason and I doing Ugly Sisters. And Hal, I can't remember his second name. He's a wonderful comic. Hal Crittenden. Anyway, his mum was dying during the production, and she was moved into his front room in, they could afford television. So, and to die. And then he came back after she died, so we had to work with the understudy. And Jason Sutton, who, I love you, you are a nutter, decided in our ballroom gowns to shimmy towards Hal and his friends to have a laugh, and there was Hal crying, and she backed up this.
Well, it was awful that I went over and going, "Oh, how are you, dears?" And of course, the bloke's he's telling the Baron about the mother's funeral. And when you know you've done something wrong, and I thought, I don't know what to do now, so I just backed up like that.
She did. It was the same dance towards him.
What
awful. I love that.
And we had an awful sketch called Busy Bee, Busy Bee.
God,
what you got to have, and you're going to spit water. I had to spit water over.
Yeah, you get sprayed in the face with shine.
Busy Bee.
Kevin Wood was laying eggs because we were breaking so many microphones. We had an email
Jason
hated this. Couldn't bear it.
Guys?
And this particular day, I'd spat at Dave, and I'd swallowed more. I got more in my mouth than I usually do. And
story my life.
And I spat it at Dave, and he screamed at me, and I ran round and I hid in the pumpkin. for the deserted forest because I was so scared what he was going to say to me. But we did have a laugh.
No, I didn't scream at you. You soaked me.
And in my last panto, one of the nicest moments was when we were in rehearsals and I was having a bit of a stressful day. And then all of a sudden, I heard a voice that I recognised, and it was Miss Dale. And we were in the same rehearsal studio.
Oh, yes.
And we used
were in
to
the
meet
same
in the
rehearsal
kitchen every
studio.
day.
Yes, you were rehearsing Snow White and I was rehearsing Cinderella. And that was lovely, that, wasn't it? We used to chat in the breaks. Yeah, it was great. But can I just ask Miss Jason, I want a question. You always play kind of like, it's very rare you play sister, isn't it? You always play like the nice mumsy kind of dame, typical traditional dame. I don't like doing that. I like being ugly sister. Really? Do you have a preference?
I do prefer playing dame.
Do you?
But the attraction to be sister was to work with Dave, and it was a lovely experience. And
I'd love to do panto with Dave.
Well, the thing is with Jason, he doesn't have evil in him. Only when he's on the bushes. But
you're not allowed to talk about the live to the nation.
Yes, let's talk about the bushes.
I remember you, Mr.
Jason and I had to do this scene. You know the ticket tearing scene, Dave? You know this.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Jason really didn't like being horrible to Cinderella. And it took me a long time. It took me a couple of days to go, Jason, you've got to be horrible. You've got to be horrible. You've got to make her tear that ticket up. You hate her. And by the time we got to it, I thought he was going to like
This is why I play buttons.
Got into it. But the funny thing was, the awful thing is, and it's a terrible thing to say because she's a lovely girl, but I didn't like being horrible to her. But
are you going to do that story?
No.
You can't do that story. Oh, Jason, please.
Oh, you can't do that.
People on stage, right? But this one, maybe. When Zoe Salmon, was it Zoe Salmon? I can't talk about this.
No, we don't then. I don't think we should anyway. Jamie,
you said enough, dear. You said enough, dear.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that. It's
right,
like
next, speaking of next, I'm moving you. We're going to talk to Miss Jason. Hello, Miss Jason. How are you?
Hello, dear. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. You all right?
It's now your turn to be in the hot seat, so enjoy it while you can. Miss Jason, so I'm really interested to hear from you in terms of how you started in the business.
Well, I have always been a follower of drag, and I used to live in Portsmouth, and I used to drink in a bar called the Old Vic, where I saw people like Doris and Dave and Lola and Maisie, and of course Phil Starr. And I so desperately, because I had such a serious job before, which I hated, and I so desperately wanted to do drag that I kept saying to my friends, I'm going to do this, and Phil Starr was on. And they said, well, ask Phil, because he's a nice man, he's a nice queen, he'll help you out. So I spoke to Phil, and he said, oh, yes, take my telephone number, ring me tomorrow. Now, this was the Sunday. Monday morning, I plucked up all my courage, because I was so nervous to speak to him over the phone, plucked up all my courage to phone him, and he said, right, you're on with me at the Queen's Arms on Wednesday. Now, I pretended that I got an act together to Phil, and in truth, I didn't even have a pair of tights. So from Monday to the Wednesday, I had to create something, which I have to say was bloody awful. But anyway, Phil, I didn't even have a name. Phil said to me, what do you call yourself? And I said, oh, well, my surname's Sutton, so I might say Sally Sutton. It's all no, we'll come up with something like that. And he introduced me, he said, years ago we had an act called Lee Sutton, and now we've got someone called Jason Sutton, so welcome on stage, Miss Jason. And that was it. So that's how I got into it. But I got into it because I loved watching it. And the wonderful thing about this way of earning a living is you get to meet and work with your heroes. And all those acts that I watched were my heroes, and it's a lovely way to earn a living. And that's how I got into it. And I never want to do anything else. Because to be honest with you, dear, I can't do anything unless I'm on stage. You've seen tonight how bad I am at technology. But my grinder works.
Well, please don't retrain in cyber, whatever you do. I don't think that's for the best. But what I do want to know is, obviously, for me as a lover of theatre, live entertainment, I know you from the panto scene, and I know you've worked with some pretty impressive names. Obviously, you just said you dropped Mr. Tumble, Zoe Salmon from Blue Peter, but recently Joe Brand.
Do you know? Joe was really, really great to work with, and what a kind and wonderful lady. She didn't. What I found amazing is she just didn't get pantomime, and she had no intention of getting pantomime either. So she'd go on, and the rest of us would have pace, and she'd go on in that way that she does. And you know, we became such good friends. And between shows, I'd go up to my dressing room and have a sleep. And then she'd ring me on my phone, and she would have made my sandwich and made me a cup of tea, so I could have a sleep. I was only talking to her the other day, actually. And I must say that I've loved everyone that I've worked with in panto. And the wonderful thing about pantomime is you all come together, and you don't know each other. So there's 20, 30 people thrown together, and you've got to come up with a show that works. And I'm quite sure that the Daves would agree that there's always a time in rehearsals when you think, bloody hell, this is never going to work. And then all of a sudden, there's a collective penny dropping moment when it happens. And, you know, when the cast come together like that, there is nothing so special, nothing more wonderful. And I must say that when I'm in pantomime and with a company, it's when I feel the safest, and it's what I love the most.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Normally, it's when you do. It's either normally your final dress run or your first show.
Yeah,
it's just something about it that just goes boom. And I think another thing that I think as well, when you do those many different years of doing panto, from what people have said, I think it just becomes that bigger sort of bug thing. So how did the panto thing come along? Because this is something that we're going to discuss about the difference between drag and panto.
Well, I think certainly pantomime companies were afraid of booking people that they perceived as drag acts because they felt that maybe we wouldn't be disciplined. But I mean, there were the first people, I think, that were in a panto that had come from our cabaret circuit were certainly Dave Dale, Dave Lynn, Kerry Dupree, and then I was lucky enough to be taken on by PHA, Paul Holman Associates. Yeah. And the only way I got the job was by keep applying and keep auditioning and keep begging, really. And my time at Richmond was my 10th anniversary, and when I had my audition at PHA, at the end of it, I just got on my knees and I said to Holman, please give me this job because I really need it. I really want it. And Paul Holman is a lovely man to work with. And I was then lucky enough to end up working with Kevin Wood, who is a very lovely man, but quite challenging sometimes. We'll leave it there. And then I got taken away with Kudos, which is lovely, and I'm fingers crossed that this year I'll get panto with Kudos again, but of course none of us know. But last Christmas, it was lovely to be at home with my partner and my chihuahua Esther and my cat Max, but Christmas was very strange not being working and being part of that panto family.
Am I right in thinking as well you've worked with Billy Pearce?
No, not me.
No, I'm trying to think who was the dame that worked with Billy Pearce, but that was just me. But you've worked with some very, very incredible people, obviously. Justin Fletcher, Mr. Tumble, I mean, legends of children's TV panto.
Paul Daniels and Debbie McGee were my favourites. But I worked with Jessie Wallace, and I loved Jessie very much because she's a naughty girl, and I can be a naughty boy sometimes. And we were in a park called The Partridge in Bromley, and we got, well, not I say we, she really, ended up in this pub argument. And I was trying to be really butch, and I said, now listen, please don't speak to her like this. And the bloke smacked me bum. And I had a big black eye, and I've still got a little scar there. But I was front page of The Sun, and I felt so famous. The Sun were waiting to take my picture at the stage door. I never paid for another drink in the Partridge for the rest of the run. It was lovely. I was on the billboards. I had a bouquet of flowers from the theatre. And Jonathan Kiley said, thanks for looking after her. Now we'll look after you. So actually, if it wasn't for the wallop with Miss Wallace, I might not still be working for Kudos. But I have worked with some lovely, lovely people. I've been lucky.
Bless you. I must admit, how do you disguise something like that? Is the makeup easy to disguise when you're doing Dame?
Well, do you know, I'm not known for my glam, dear. So they probably thought it was another wrinkle. But what they did is they glued my eye together. Not my eye, my eyelid. I'm stroking it like you can see. There's a little dent there. I don't know. Can you see? Anyway, yeah, can you do that?
Just a little bit, yeah.
They glued, yes, Mum. They glued it together so that I could put my makeup over it. So,
and did you have to miss a show? Did you miss a show? Did you like?
No.
Wow.
No.
Bloody trooper.
Yeah, well, you know, you've got a job to do and you have to do it, don't you? I missed a show once when it was years ago in Derby for PHA. And it was neurovirus. Mind you, I lost a lot of weight there. But it was Peter Pan, and I was nurse. No, I wasn't nurse Nancy. What was I? Dame Mabel. And I had to fly. And after I'd come back, I told the crew and the band in the pit that my stomach was still a bit bad. And as they took me up, swung me across the pit, I went, whoa, like that, and they all died. They all hit.
So you worked with this one as well, Mr. Dave Lynn.
Yes, I did.
So what was that like working as sisters together?
You know, the wonderful thing is, and Dave can back me up on this, all the queens said, oh, they'll fall out. And we did. We had a lovely time.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you told me. Now no,
I actually, we had a one fallout.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but that was because all the water in the hotel, the tanks had frozen, so we couldn't stay.
Yeah.
So they said, you've got to move to our sister hotel. And she said, I'm not moving. And I said to her, I won't say the F word. I said, don't be so fudging stupid, dear. Because that was the only time.
Rob, I was a diva at that point. I'm
allowed to be.
I'm a Jewish man. I like being comfortable. And
the only other... Oh, sorry, go on.
After every show, Jason and I would go back to our hotel and chat for ages. Then she'd go off, helping the homeless. And
the only other time...
I actually adore doing Ugly Sister with Jason. We had the best time.
We did have a lovely time, didn't we? But I did freak Dave out on opening night, because I get a bit tense about things and I like to tidy and I like to get things right. And I started putting the Christmas decorations up 15 minutes before the show. And he went, what are you doing? But it was all right.
No, we had a fabulous dressing room, didn't we, Jason?
Oh, it was a lovely big one, wasn't it?
And
but we had
Jason
toilets and 3 showers.
And I'm Jewish, so it's completely opposite. So I'd come in the morning and my place would be tidy, which freaked me out.
And I found, what was that oil I found in the pound shop, dear? What do pregnant ladies put on their tummies? Bio oil. And I found...
So I said to her, the bio oil is really good. So we went to this, we lived, the theatre was in the centre, the shopping centre. And we found the pound shop and I said to Jason, bio oil is fantastic. So we go home. And the next morning, I come into the theatre and Jason has bought the shop out of bio oil.
Every bottle of bio oil.
There's bottles of it.
And I've still got some left. And how long ago was that?
But we laughed. I've never laughed so much working with someone like Jason Sutton. It was just... the stories.
We did laugh.
To write a book about that whole season.
It was so
funny, yeah, and we didn't really know each other that well.
No, and that was lovely. I remember, I was on. Can we talk about Grindr, darling, on this?
We can do whatever you want.
I was on Grindr, And I said to Miss Lynn, come on, while you're away, dear, get yourself on Grindr, see if you get yourself a bit of company. And she went on Grindr, and she got into, hello, how's your day been? I've been shopping. And she was telling people, I said, no, Dave, that's really not what they want to know. They don't want to know what you spent in Waitrose, I think. I can't read that.
That is Eric Potts. The lovely Eric Potts said, I'm not going to get
tiny, this writing on here.
So
What's he said?
He said you'll never get another word in now with these two, Rob. Give them both my love.
Oh, Eric, you naughty man. How are you, dear? All right. Do you remember that day in your caravan, Eric Potts, when I was naked
Rob,
on the
this is
side?
true because we talk.
With Sam.
We could talk for England, both of us.
I'm gonna move Jason. I'm gonna move him because I'll never get to talk to you. But continue, Dave.
Sorry.
You can continue what you were saying.
It just makes me laugh. It was a wonderful season. And, to laugh and actually, you know, when I started drag, you just put drag on and went on stage. But to work with people like this, with this talent and with this personality, and I think that's what makes talent, this personality. It was funny. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just reading these comments. Bless. Dave Lynn, I read a couple of articles when researching who we get on, because believe it or not, I research who we get on. I always like to pick a couple of things, and there's something I can't remember what magazine said this, but someone described you as the godmother of the world of drag.
Oh, really? Oh, lovely. Okay.
I can't remember where it was, but I think that gives.
I'd rather be the godmother than the grandmother.
That's true, but I think that title of godmother, I think, gives testament to someone who was well respected. And from everyone that I've spoken to, saying that you were coming on, everyone's going, "Oh my goodness, Dave Lynn." Obviously, they're going, "Oh my goodness, Jason." "Oh my goodness, Dave Adele." But "Oh my goodness, Dave Lynn." So to have someone like you on this, I'm really grateful of. So tell us, how did you get started in the business?
Oh, do you know what? I've said this a couple of times, but the truth was, at that time, I mean, I'm obviously older than everybody on this program, but it was basically a girlfriend of mine dared me, and there was kind of a natural feeling when I put drag on. You know, I suddenly realised I kind of like putting makeup on. So my dare, and it's true, and Dave Dell backed me up on this. It was true. I entered a talent contest in the Black Cap as a dare, and mimed, lip-synced, as we would say, to Liza Minnelli, who was my hero, and borrowed my mum's halter neck and miniskirt. She wasn't a prostitute. She just had really good taste in.
And going from there, so how did that, obviously doing that competition, how did that transpire into your acting?
It was actually, Rob, it wasn't good. I didn't get the work. I wasn't a popular winner. I ended up going to work in the West End in the hostess clubs, and I would park my car in London, and can you imagine this? I parked my car in London, not in a car park, and I would go in drag. It was easier, and no one bothered me, and that's what I did. I did about 5 clubs a night, and they gave me a tenner a club.
Wow. So you must have had to do a lot of jobs in order to...
Yeah, but it was so much fun. But I remember someone said to me, you must be frightened doing this. I wasn't frightened. I parked my car in one part of London, and I would do these clubs. The gay scene didn't... I didn't work the gay scene until a couple of years later. But the experience of working with hostess clubs was, I think, I never saw myself as a girl or a pretty drag queen. I wanted to be funny, but working these clubs taught me a bit of glamour.
Yeah. So then, how did? So you say it took you a couple of years to get into the gay scene, into the stuff like that. So when did you know when did the momentum start picking up for you? When was it that actually this could be good stuff?
It was the Vauxhall, at the Union Tavern, the Black Cup. I entered the talent contest, and that was it.
And again, I was looking through some of the stuff that you've been doing. I mean, you went on The Weakest Link. I mean.
Okay, don't blame me for that.
Well, no, but like with one legend against Anne Robinson.
I had a wonderful time. I tell you what, I mean, I think all the other acts will agree with me that once you change from lip sync to live, that things changed.
Mm-hmm.
The Weakest Link, I did not want to go on. And I remember my lovely dad, I phoned him, I said, they've asked me to go on The Weakest Link. I don't know nothing. He said, oh, just do it. And sadly, he died soon after that. And I did the program with him in mind. And they were so lovely to me about it. And I did The Weakest Link 4 times after that.
Wow. I mean, what was it like being with Anne Robinson? She's just been announced to do Countdown, hasn't she?
I know. She was okay. Okay. If I was a woman, I wouldn't look like her. But, good luck to her.
And transitioning...
She was quite nice. She was quite nice to me.
I mean, she has that reputation of being the queen and mean, but I can sense there's a soft side in her.
Oh, there was. I think I say I did it 4 times. We did 2 drag queen versions of it. All of us won that. And the second one we did with an audience. And she came to talk to me, and she was once I got through to the finals, she was really nice. But she said that she did the bitchiness because there was a guy in her earphones, and he would pick up on everything that we all said.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just had a text from Eric Potts. I'm just going to read it. It's totally unprofessional for me.
What do you mean?
Oh, Eric Potts has just showed me a picture of something of Miss Jason. I have evidence now. But one of the things I really want to know from you... we're not even going to go there. But one of the things I really want to know from you, because you mentioned about transitioning from lip sync to live. What do you mean by that?
Because the first 5 years of my career, lip sync was very big. We all did that, and I it was actually lip sync. Don't put it down because it's quite hard to do. But I think I was working for the Royal Vauxhall Tavern and the Union, and Pat Breeden McConnell asked me to host stuff, so I had to speak. And the only song I knew was Havana Gila.
Yeah.
Because I'd learned that at school.
Yeah.
I went to the Jewish Free School in Camden Town. Free being libelous. And so, yeah, that changed. I think that changed my career from, I love lip sync. If you're good at it, bloody do it. But once I went live, I never shut up.
Because one of the things, I think this is due to my lack of. I'm not as aware and as educated in the drag scene as I would like to be. Because I think it's something that I would like to sort of know a little bit more about. Because I've never actually seen a drag act live before, so. For me, this is a fantastic education to hear all you three talking about this. So, what sort of different types of acts can you get? Because obviously you've got your lip sync, you've got your lives. And this is actually... Do you know what? I'll bring David in and I'll bring Jason. If there's an intruder... just to let you know.
That's not an intruder. That's my housemate and very best friend. And my maid.
Nice to have an intruder, dear.
It is.
Well, I think, Rob... Both these guys would understand what I'm saying. Jason, I've only I know Dave for many years. We met.
Oh, she's gone.
Oh.
No. No.
Sugars.
No, my dog
heels there.
But I think Dave Dale and I know for years that lip sync was very popular. And you did it well, and you were an expert. That's it.
I think it's because for me it was easy. I found it easy, and I was scared of singing, even though I've done a lot of musical theatre at school. I was scared of live. I still am scared of live, unless I couldn't just go on stage and yak. I have to have a script. I have to have a character. Without those things, I can't do it. Otherwise, I'd feel a bit phony just standing.
I think that's what we loved about you, Dave, at that time, because I was confused with my act. Do you remember Double D, Graham?
Yes, we did, Darnell.
Yeah.
I loved you two together. You were fun.
Yeah, we did. I mean, our act was like dance, and
it was good.
We did fire eating. For God's sake, and then life changes, and we moved on. I met Miss Jason, who I do admire. I mean, God knows why she's wearing those glasses.
Well, because I can't see otherwise, you tit.
And now you know why we get on. I admire. I admire every sort of or every sort of talent, because it's very hard in our days, Dave, wasn't it? To make a living at it. I think our first bookings were about 15 quid.
Yeah, I remember doing 2 spots at the Black Cat for £12.50.
Yeah, it was exactly like that, and
they were 20 minutes each. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were happy.
Over the moon, dear. Because if you did that, I mean, at that time, before I started doing drag, I was working at B-Jam, which is now Iceland, and I was a 19 quid a week. And that would pay my keep and everything. And to earn £12.50 a night over 6 nights' work was a lot of money in those days. A lot of money in those days. When the old Queen was on the throne. But yeah. So yeah, it was.
Well, I didn't think the money at that time. I was so pleased to be on stage.
Money didn't matter.
No, it didn't. I didn't know I was going to, because my parents wouldn't let me go to stage school when I wanted to. So I got to 30 and I got myself a scholarship at the London Studio Centre.
Wow. Oh, fabulous!
Because I think Jason, Dave, you'll know this. When we have to audition, I had no qualifications to audition. I didn't know how to do it. All I knew, I could go in. So you go to an audition, you drink the place dry, and that's all I knew. So I had to learn something.
And going to your point, Dave, about it not being about the money, a long time ago, a couple of years ago, myself and Dave, and we won't name the other acts that were there, we were at a friend's house for dinner, and we went round the table and we said fame or fortune, and actually out of all the acts that were there, it was only myself and Dave that said fame. And not the fortune. And I don't know any really wealthy drag queen, well, except for Miss Lynn, because she got a prefab insulting. But listen, we don't earn a lot of money. We spend a lot of money because we want to try and look as good as we can. It's not just being there for the hour. There's a lot of preparation, a lot of work goes into what we do.
I'm very,
and you couldn't do it.
I'm
if
very
you didn't
proud.
Really
I think Dave will agree with me. I'm very proud that we've lasted this long.
Oh God!
Oh, darling, at the end of the day, it's all about longevity. I mean,
how long?
Yeah, but Dave,
I've been doing drag
about it. When we started, we were 17 years old.
Yeah, that's right. I met you in the September of 1976. I was looking at my diaries, and
that's right.
And we started around the same time, and I was so jealous because you were so pretty, and I was like such an ugly fucker. Excuse my French. And we sort of worked well together. Because Dave would sail out and do this marvelous woman, and I do the equivalent, but looking pig ugly.
I didn't know you
that combination. That
Oh, I didn't know you
combination
thought
really
that.
works. But no, I did. But 45 years in September it'll be for me, and I'm guessing, Dave, it'll be that for you.
Oh no, mine's past, darling. I'm afraid it was last November.
But we
is
are
it? So
doing
you were
something.
doing a bit
We're
longer than
getting
me
something
then, yeah.
special sorted for Dave because he missed his anniversary. So there's plans there.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I'm so pleased. We had there was a big argument about 10 years ago between some acts, and I thought that if we didn't do this, would drag be here today?
I don't think so.
There was a time. I mean, I don't know, Jason. I've talked to Jason about it, but Dave, you remember this? I remember people saying, "Oh my God, drag's dying, drag's dying," and now
I don't
it's
think drag is dying. I think talent is dying.
Can I just jump in on this?
You've got to admit, in our day, you had to be good or you didn't get the work. But now they'll book any old shit, and they'll get the work, and they'll go and book it for 40, 30 quid. And we wouldn't even get out of bed for that.
Can I just raise an interesting point?
I like Jason Sutton, who is I've known
Jason Sutton.
Jason
I like
Sutton,
it when you call me Jason Sutton.
I call you that, Miss Huckingpox.
I'm the one at the bottom. How am I on the bottom? Anyway,
I've got you.
Why change the habit of a lifetime,
dear? Right, bottom right.
Why change the habit of a lifetime?
I think that drag, in the way that we love it and the way we respect it, will always be there. I think it's very much part of the British psyche and British makeup. Almost like, we're like Panda Dames, but like the sea postcards at the seaside and all that sort of thing. However, I think that it is evolving, and I think that we're living in a society that's evolving, and it's sometimes, for me, I can only speak for me, I can't speak for the other two. Sometimes for me, it's difficult to understand the new people and the new style. I am doing my best to understand and respect, and all I ask from them is their understanding and their respect back to me and my form of drag. And I think if we go ahead that way, then we can ensure that drag will last forever. But I just think we need to...
agree more. Jace, I couldn't agree more. Years ago, there was a few arguments, and I said to, I think it was David Raven, Maisie, and we talked and we said, we need to keep this going. It wasn't about who was better.
No, you're right.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to, drag is an art. I believe it's an art.
It certainly is.
Wonderful talents. Sorry, Jace. I missed that.
No, I was just going to say, yes, it is an art. It is an art. And, the other thing that we need to remember about people that work the cabaret circuit is we're not just there we are there to make people laugh and smile. We're the sunshine spreaders. But actually, when there's a tragedy, when there's a problem, when people need support within our community, the drag queens, the drag artists are the first people that people turn to and say, can you do a fundraiser? Can you do this? And we take sheer delight in taking part in those fundraisers. And when people knock us, I feel like saying, do you ever go to work and do a day's work for no money to help somebody else?
I think when people knock us, I think they're just postmen.
Mm-hmm.
Can I
believe,
Dave, what do you think?
We were talking about it's a sin, which took me. Dave Dale.
I'm just moving it. Yeah.
We'll be talking about this on Channel 4 Inclusion, which is a great new thing, and I remember living through that. Dave will remember this, and it was like I was like a young guy. I was in my 20s when AIDS came along, and talking to people, and I thought entertainment was necessary, it was needed at that time. But it was frightening. I mean, I was a young man at the time. I was frightened.
I think we were all really frightened. I mean, I recently, last week, I'm doing I've been involved in a new film about drag in the 80s, and specifically about the Black Cap. And when I was being interviewed on last Saturday, the subject of drag queens involvement in the AIDS crisis and what it was all about for us. What people have to remember is that this was at a time when no one knew what it was, no one knew how you called it, no one knew anything about it. You couldn't go to the doctor because they didn't know. We were in pubs and being told that our friends were dropping down dead. We didn't know where they were gone. And we'd be at funerals on a daily basis, 4 days a week. We go to a different funeral every day. And I remember a friend of mine who died in very similar circumstances to one of the characters in It's a Sin, where he was in hospital and I went to visit him. And he was locked in a room. I had to go in with his food, which they left on the floor. And I had to wear head to toe protective gear. Yeah. Now, 2 weeks after this, he died and he had no family and we had no money. So we did a charity at the Black Cat, which I organized in order to raise money from my friend's funeral. And from that moment on, Maisie Jolette was involved and Regina Fong. And we decided at that point that it was us drag queens were the only people that anyone was going to listen to. So we got together in groups and we raised money for AIDS awareness. And without our input, there would have been no Terence Higgins Trust. There would have been no London Lighthouse. There would have been no AIDS helplines. That all come from the drag queens getting together and raising money.
No, but we were there. And
people forget this.
In the 80s, when we got together, Pride started.
That's right, because no one knew. There was no money. No one cared. The gays were dropping down like flies. Who gives a shit? That was the attitude. And without our input, this is not just about drag performers as entertainers. This is about drag performers having a voice and being heard and people taking notice. And we use that platform
just being
let
human.
people know.
We're just being human.
Well, that's it.
It was very hard. It was very hard because at that time, I remember being very scared myself.
Oh, we were all scared. We were all wondering who was going to be next.
And I had some gigs, and suddenly the gigs weren't that important.
Yeah, that's right. The gay scene kind of lost its sense of humour suddenly. Everyone was terrified.
I can't imagine what it must have been like to live through that and go through that. I mean, my recollection of that period of time was the adverts with the lilies and everything, and I was still I was just leaving my secondary school, but to see your friends becoming ill and dying must have been horrific.
What was more horrific was the fact that no one seemed to care and no one seemed to know and no one knew what to do about it. And none of us knew how we could catch it.
It was horrific. But you know what? It was the time that I thought, and Dave, you must agree with me, it was a time when the acts were needed. A lot.
Oh, yeah, we were the only thing that were putting sunshine in gay people's lives. They would go
Isn't it astonishing?
It is.
Yes.
And yet people, they look at us like we're dinosaurs sometimes, like we don't matter anymore.
We
that we're
are
not
accused
relevant.
of being dinosaurs.
No, I don't know. I won't
Oh, I do, John. Take it from me, dear. I'm so much abused.
You're a fish.
It's true.
Jason.
Can I ask a question then? There's two questions I sort of want to ask. One about a previous point that was made before we jumped on to this, because I think...
Oh, is it over? Is it finished? It's been so much fun.
Do you know what? Just for me to take a step back and listen to that, I needed to hear everything that you said. So thank you very much for making this discussion sort of important, because I think there's a lot of parallels between what's going on right now and what went on in the 80s. And what I want to ask about the whole the It's a Sin thing in the AIDS crisis. At any point did any of you feel like you were being stigmatized because of everything that was going on?
Definitely, yeah, I certainly did. And my friends all around me were like, we were being judged. A lot of my friends were as kids, were thrown out of their homes by their parents because they wouldn't accept being gay. So being told that their children were going to die, they didn't want to know. It was horrendous. And, as I said, we organised many funerals, Lily Savage and myself. we used to get together to organise people's funerals, and then there was a couple of occasions when the family turned up at these funerals, and we were told to leave. We weren't welcome, and yet we were the ones that organised them, you know. But we were the ones they needed to blame someone, so they blamed us.
And that stigma, sadly, still exists today. And you know, there are people that are HIV positive that are too afraid to come out. I mean, I'm HIV positive, and I have been for 6 years or something. But I like to think,
but you've always been honest about it, haven't you,
positively
Jase?
Positive. Yeah. But I know people that live in fear of talking about their status, and you know, things like when people refer to HIV as the riddle or the riddly diddly, and when people talk about places like Gran Canaria and call it riddled rock and all that business, prejudice still exists today. And
I agree.
We are, to many people, because we're men that dress as women and not always pretty women, speaking about myself, we are ridiculous to a lot of people. But we have a voice. People listen to us. We're not politicians, we're entertainers. But we do have the right to express our opinion. Lovely. And people,
absolutely,
we must do this. And if we talk about what we're experiencing, whether it's HIV, whether it's mental health, whether it's racism, as long as we talk about
we've all lost people,
and we confront it, we can solve it. But the minute we stop talking about it because we're frightened to, because of bullies, and with the three of us, we had a little bit of bullying about doing this today off of some dickhead on Facebook, you know, and there are so many people out there ready to knock us and to have a go at us.
Yeah.
But I reckon, and then I'll say no more, the cabaret circuit, whether you're a drag act, whether you're a vocalist, whether you're a stripper, whether you're a comedian, whatever, you know, we are the glue that holds our community together, and we always will be.
I agree with that. I completely agree with
that.
Well,
I can't top that. Jason, I can't top that.
We nearly finished because they've just said our dinner's ready.
I agree totally.
We will wrap this up in the next 5 minutes.
Thank you
for having me.
There's one question I want to ask.
It won't be the first, honey.
No.
There's one question I must ask though, because it's been brought up quite a few times on the chat. And David, I know you've got so many opinions on this, so I'm going to literally leave it. You've got like 2 sentences each because I want to wrap this up. Drag Race, because this I know, because you talked about it. You talked about it earlier about how your style of drag.
Can I say one thing? At least drag is now mainstream.
Yeah.
Only all right.
It should have been us, and it will be us, because they can't do 45 minutes.
I don't really want to make a comment about Drag Race because anyone that knows me knows my opinion. And the past week on Facebook, I've been bullied, I've been harassed, and I've been threatened. I've had my life threatened, okay? I've got my own personal opinions on Drag Race. Yes, it is in the mainstream, but it's only in the mainstream if you look and behave in a certain fashion. RuPaul's Drag Race would never entertain the likes of us three in a million years. But then I say this, I don't need RuPaul's approval I don't need to justify my act or myself to anyone. So if someone asked me to go on RuPaul, the answer would be no, because I don't feel the man has the qualifications to judge me or judge any established act. I don't need to be judged. I've got my act, I do it. If you like it, come and see it. If you don't like it, don't come and see it. But I'm not don't really want to say any more about it because I open my big mouth and I get into trouble.
Dave,
but I will always defend my act no matter what.
Why would you bother to talk about it? We've had longer careers and better careers, so why would we talk about it?
I talk about it, Dave, to defend myself, because I'm not going to be told by anyone that I'm no longer relevant, that I'm old-fashioned, that I'm old school, and that it's about time I hung up my bra.
If you're saying that, you're talking about me as well.
Precisely, but I'm not frightened to speak up, even though I get bullied and harassed. I don't care. You know, because I've every right to defend myself, and I don't consider a lot of these acts to be better than me, and I don't consider myself to be better than them. we're all different, and different.
I have to tell you all. I never judged other acts when I was around. If someone was talented, I loved it.
Same here. Talent will out.
If you don't love talent, get out of this.
But why should you feel the need to justify yourself to someone else? That's what I don't understand. Why have we got into a culture of having to get approval from every single person because that's the culture? It shouldn't be. If talent is talent, talent is talent, and that's what should be.
You can only be. Sorry, Jace, but you can only be yourself. You can only be yourself. You know, every one of us is individual, and that's what I love.
We've all tonight spoken about respecting other forms of drag or entertainment, which I can do. And I do think that RuPaul's Drag Race is not my cup of tea, I have to be honest. But I do think Drag Race is another form. So we kind of have to respect that. But what I don't respect about the programme, and particularly this last series, season rather, they threw people together and all they did was encourage them to bitch and fight among themselves. And it hurts me to think that there will be a new generation of youngsters growing up that think that's what drag queens are about. And drag queens because that is not what we do. And I, you know, when I've been really down, and we've all had times when we're really down, you know, we can pick up the phone to each other.
But have they been to the venues that we've been to, the hard venues?
And I think it's awful that they encourage people to behave on television that way.
Well, it's because it makes good
I'm
TV.
Cutting my chin off, aren't I?
It makes good TV, you see. All that bitching and backstabbing, it makes good TV, but when they bring it into real life and it becomes very real,
it's not.
It gives, for me, it's like we are very supportive. Our era is very supportive of one another.
I'm going to say one thing before I go.
Go ahead.
Because I need to go and get really drunk. But I will say that I'm very proud of my time on the scene and all the people I'm with. And you lot, I'm very proud of you. Thank you for asking me to do this.
Thank you so much. You know what? We will end it there because I feel like that's a natural point. But you know what? I will say before we go, thank you so much to each three of you for being, first of all, being honest, being open, and just being amazing storytellers. Because tonight I've learned so much, not only as a someone that's in the community, as a performer, whatever, like an aspiring performer, but also as a human. I've learned a lot tonight, so thank you so much. So that is it for tonight and for our little series. We are going to come back after Easter, but I want to say a massive thank you to Dave Lynn. I want to say a massive thank you to David Dell, and a massive thank you to Jason, who's going to go have his tea now. But thank you so much for being honest. Yeah, please enjoy your tea.
Love you, boys.
But have a
lovely... By the way, guys, it was great. It was great to talk to you.
It's been so nice to see you, Dave, after all these years.
We haven't talked like this personally. I've seen him, but not you. Dave Dell.
Same to you, and I love you lots. And you, Miss Jason.
Bye,
Easter, everyone. Ta-ra.
Get lots of
eggs.
Thanks for
having us. Bye, darling.